Israel is threatening the port of Tyre in the south of Lebanon. An order to evacuate has been issued. This usually precedes a military attack. Israel's already sent ground troops into the south of Lebanon this Tuesday. Earlier today, Israel's military warned residents of more than 80 villages to evacuate their homes. Meanwhile, the Iran-backed militia Hezbollah says that it's ready for an open war with Israel in the wake of the US-Israeli war on Iran. The development came after Hezbollah fired rockets and launched drones early Monday towards the north of Israel. Israel retaliated with a wave of airstrikes that killed 40 people in Lebanon, including a Palestinian militant, as well as a Hezbollah intelligence official in Beirut's southern suburbs. So 40 people killed, 250 wounded over the past 48 hours. The situation there is looking very delicate indeed. Joining us live from Beirut in Lebanon, Hussein Ibish, senior resident scholar at the Arab Gulf States Institute. Hussein, as always, pleasure to have you with us here in France 24.
Great to see you, Mark.
I imagine where you are, there is a great deal of anger and a great deal of concern about what could happen over the next few hours.
You're absolutely right. There is a lot of anger. There's a lot of anger directed towards Israel. There's always anger in Lebanon directed towards Israel because Lebanon has been victimized by Israel on many occasions. However, there's also more anger towards Hezbollah than I've ever seen since it was formed in 1982. There's a lot of resentment that Hezbollah is perceived, including by people in the Shiite community, and just lots and lots of people in Lebanon, as recklessly dragging the country into war that it cannot afford, and a war that has absolutely no relevance to Lebanon, relevance perhaps to Iran, a country very far away. This really is sort of the frozen limit. And I think the fact that the government has decided to confront Hezbollah the way that they have, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, is an indication of that political opening that has opened.
So the issue here is to separate Lebanon and Hezbollah. That's really what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Making that separation.
Well, yes, and the problem is...
Go ahead, Hussein.
Well, the problem is that the problem is that Israel has said that it will target Lebanese infrastructure generally, including the airport, which would be calamitous. Now, they focused on Hezbollah-oriented targets, and if they're wise, they'll continue with that because there's a real opening with the government taking an unprecedented step. They had an emergency cabinet meeting yesterday morning after Hezbollah launched a few projectiles into Israel, and Israel responded with a major bombardment and a declaration that was going to have a big operation in Lebanon. The cabinet, after it met Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, announced that the cabinet had declared Hezbollah's actions illegal and that it had instituted a ban on all of its military and paramilitary activities into the foreseeable future, demanded that they surrender their illegal weapons, and basically declared everything Hezbollah does in a paramilitary way to be unconstitutional outside the framework of the state. That is not something that's ever happened since Hezbollah was formed in 1982. And this was reiterated today by President Joseph Aoun, who was talking to foreign diplomats of the so-called quintet that deals with Lebanon. And he said that that decision is not only exactly what happened, but it's irrevocable and irreversible. And so this is a huge confrontation, so that in addition to this war between Israel and Hezbollah that could spill into the rest of Lebanon and be absolutely catastrophic, you also have a power struggle inside Lebanon where the government is finally insisting on its right to assert a monopoly of force and an exclusive power over issues of war and peace. And that's really a remarkable opening and a real sign of hope for Lebanon, I think.
How do you separate, though, the idea of Lebanon and the idea of Hezbollah? Because clearly the two have overlapped now for a few generations.
Well, yes, but I think the distinction is that Hezbollah operates within the framework of the Lebanese state, but not within legal proprieties. It is an extra constitutional, extra legal thing. Hezbollah has no right to maintain an independent military and therefore conduct its own private foreign policy and defense policy. It has no right to plunge the country into war without consulting anybody. This is simply something that it's been used to. Now, the thing is that when the Taif Accord ended the civil war in 1989, all the other militias disarmed. Hezbollah said that because Israel remained in a brutal occupation of southern Lebanon, of a big chunk of the country, they needed to retain their weapons to liberate the south of the country. And that was generally accepted even by people that didn't like Hezbollah and didn't trust their Iranian sponsors. After May of 2000, when Israel was finally driven out, they then continued to argue that they needed to maintain these weapons because there were these areas, little villages that remained under Israeli control and occupation. They're disputed, etc. But the point is that as time has gone on, and as Hezbollah has repeatedly dragged the country into war, the patience of everyone else for this routine and this excuse that, well, we're fighting Israel, so it's okay, has worn out. It hasn't worn thin, it's worn out. And the weakness of Hezbollah at the moment, the weakness of Iran, the loss of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, the whole transformation of the Middle East in a negative way from the point of view of Hezbollah has created this opening for the Lebanese government to assert flatly that only the state has a right to do these things, and Hezbollah must cut it out. And I think the outcome of this power struggle is going to determine much, not only about the future of Lebanon, but also the reach of Iran and Iran's ability to control parts of the Arab world that is infiltrated, not just Lebanon, but Iraq, Yemen, and elsewhere. It's a very, very crucial test of strength here.
Hussein, you're in Beirut. There have been strikes on Beirut which have claimed lives. We're expecting, given that an evacuation order has been issued, which one could couch that differently and say threats have been issued against the port city of Tyre by the Israelis. There are going to be strikes there imminently, one imagines.
Right.
What is the depth of feeling among ordinary people? There must be, I imagine, sick and tired of this situation.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. People are angry, as I say, and because they felt it was avoidable. And because Hezbollah's strike against Israel was de minimis, it wasn't a major, action. It was a few rockets and a few drones. It just didn't amount to much. A lot of people are saying, "Why have you done this? What's going on? What on earth?" First of all, how could this possibly benefit Lebanon? Secondly, even if you want to champion Iran and go to the, to defend the honor of the slain supreme leader, you really didn't do much in that regard. All you did was give the Israelis an excuse to come in and start hitting you again, and us in the process. I think there's tremendous anger as well as fear and anxiety here. And if the government did not sense a unique opportunity, they would not have moved against Hezbollah.